Peace, shalom, greetings. I'm Rabbi Dana Bogatz of First Hebrew Congregation. The Peekskill Area Pastors Association, often called PAPA, has held an annual Holocaust Remembrance program for many years. Last year, we were forced to cancel as we went into lockdown due to COVID-19. Many thanks to Rabbi Lori Levy of the Reformed Temple of Putnam Valley for sharing the research and notes from the 2020 committee. The core of this service has been created from their work. There are two parts of the service that are meant for you to participate in. They are candlelighting, as a symbol of the many people who suffered, and reading the names of those who were murdered by the Nazi regime to remember that each human being lived and was loved. When I think of those two rituals, I can't help but think of Hyman Mendelowitz, a member of First Hebrew, who survived the Nazi work camps and came to the U.S. to create a meaningful life and a beautiful family. As a survivor, Jaime would be honored with lighting one of the candles, and among the many names of victims that are read are Jaime's mother, brothers, and sisters. Jaime died of natural causes in July of this year, and now his name is on the list of names we read. We dedicate this service to the life and legacy of Hyman Mendelowitz. Our program will include prayers and readings by many of the area clergy. We're also fortunate to have a very special presentation by Carol Enger, the Mishlinga expose, about the treatment of families and individuals who were neither all Jewish nor all Aryan. Carol's father was just such a person, and she has dedicated herself to sharing his story. Yes, we are missing being together, and we look forward to live and in-person service. In the meantime, we hope that this program inspires us to shine light in the dark places of the world.
It is the Jewish tradition to light a Your Sight candle in memory of our loved ones. Today we light 7 candles. Each of the first 6 memorializes 1 million of our loved ones killed in the Holocaust. The 7th is to honor the many others who were killed. The first candle. Sometimes we must interfere. When human lives are endangered, when human dignity is in jeopardy, national borders and sensitivities become irrelevant. Whenever men or women are persecuted because of their race, religion, or political views, that place must at that moment become the center of the universe. The first candle. What hurts the victim most is not the cruelty of the oppressor, but the silence of the bystander. The third candle. I swore never to be silent whenever and wherever human beings endure suffering and humiliation. We must always take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. The fourth candle. There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest. The fifth candle. The opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it is indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it is indifference. And the opposite of death is not life, it is indifference. The sixth candle. Young people want to learn. They are thirsty for knowledge. They want to understand and remember. The main thing is to teach them where not to go. Oppression, not to go. Dictatorship, not not to go. Racism and prejudice, absolutely not to go. This is a moral plan for society. The seventh candle. True, we are often too weak to stop injustices, but the least we can do is protest against them. True, we are too poor to eliminate hunger, but in feeding one child, we protest against hunger. True, we are too timid and powerless to take on all the guards of all the political prisons in the world, but in offering our solidarity to one prisoner, we denounce all tormentors. True, we are powerless against death, but as long as we help one man, one woman, one child live 1 hour longer in safety and in dignity, we affirm a person's right to live.
Hi, my name is Enoch Yatri. I am the pastor of Grace United Methodist Church in Putnam Valley. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this service, Holocaust service. I'm given a reading, which is a poetry. The poetry title is The Butterfly. It is written by Pavel Friedman, was written in 1942. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears would sing against a white stone, such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. It went away, I'm sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. For 7 weeks, I have lived in here, penned up inside this ghetto. But I have found my people here. The dandelion called to me. The dandelions called to me, and the white chestnut candles in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live in here. Butterflies don't live in here, in the ghetto. Shalom. Peace to you all.
My name is Jennifer Jake, and I'm the rabbi at Temple Israel of Northern Westchester. Hugo Gryn, who endured the horrors of Auschwitz and was liberated from a subcamp of Mauthausen, wrote of his experience in the concentration camp where he was imprisoned with his father. It was the cold winter of 1944. And although we had nothing like calendars, my father, who was my fellow prisoner there, took me and some of our friends to a corner of our barrack. He announced that it was the eve of Hanukkah, produced a curious-shaped clay bowl, and began to light a wick immersed in his precious, but now melted, margarine ration. Before he could recite the first blessing, I protested at the waste of food. He looked at me, then at the lamp, and finally said, "You and I have seen that it is possible to live up to 3 weeks without food. We once lived almost 3 days without water. But you cannot live properly for 3 minutes without hope."
Can you define the word mishling? Mischling, Mischling is a mixling. It's a German word for a mixling. You are of mixed race, but it's evenly distributed between two grandparents being Jewish and two grandparents being Aryans. So that was the denomination that they gave us. Half Aryans, half Jews. It was a term that was interchangeable, because since Hitler was not interested in the religion of the people, but he considered the Jews an undesirable race. And as far as he was concerned, everybody who descended from Jews, even partially, was undesirable and was not expected to pass on any Jewish blood. Questionnaires were always asking, what's the religion of your grandparents? It never said, what's your religion? That was unimportant. What's the religion of your grandparents? And that automatically branded you as a half-Jew if you said two are Jewish. what was interesting about that family and about a lot of other families in Germany in those days was that the generation of my grandfather were very much assimilated to being German first and Jewish second.
We are on the list, you know, maybe 3 months, 6 months, 8 months. Our day was coming.
Right.
That's 100%. It was a law.
These laws were passed gradually. They were passed for the Jews in 1933. For the Mischlinge, they appeared in 1940. At that time, the half-Jews, the Mischlinge, had been drafted into the army when the war had started in 1939. And my brother, who was there together with a friend from Breslau, who was a non-Aryan, not a half-Aryan, but a non-Aryan. So he fled over the Pyrenees to Spain, and from Spain he went to England and saved his life this way. My brother did not dare do that. He wanted to. But since he thought and he knew that he was supposed to go into the army, he was afraid that Hitler or the Nazis would take it out on his family if he, as a German potential soldier, is fleeing into another country and is not coming back. So he came back. And they had just passed another law. There was a new law, they didn't want them anymore, so they sent them back, and they did not draft any new ones. But it was a slow degradation of the lifestyle. It was going from worse to worse.
Her brother had contracted tuberculosis in an internment camp in France and recovered well in a sanatorium in Germany. He was on his way to a summer hotel job near the Swiss border, but he disappeared en route. They reported him missing.
The trains were regularly raided by the military and the Gestapo. So one of the two, I'm not sure which, probably the Gestapo, saw his military pass that he had, which identified him as a half-Jew. He was a tall, blonde guy and stuck out in those days, in 1943, like a sore thumb, not being in uniform and fighting for his fatherland. So somebody didn't like that, took him out of the train.
He was passed from Gestapo prison to Gestapo prison until they anonymously received a phone call that he was in Breslau. Each of them, including her non-Aryan mother, went to the prison to petition for his release. Finally, one officer told Rosemary that if she came back the next week, he might have some information.
And then he looked in his files and he said, "Your brother has been shipped to Auschwitz." So I immediately got in touch with my parents, and my father got on the train to go to Auschwitz and rescue his son. Well, he never got to Auschwitz, of course. I mean, they didn't allow tourists or regular persons to get there. So he came back, and then we got a letter from my brother. He was allowed to write. We have 2 letters from Auschwitz. And in the last one that was dated the 4th of July, he did not write the letter himself. It was written in some other's handwriting, but he signed it. And it said the news about John or some other name about his TB breaking out again is very sad, and I hope that he will recover. And we, of course, knew that he was talking about himself. And then several weeks later, my father was ordered to the Gestapo in Breslau and was handed a death certificate that was dated the 8th of July. So he died on the 8th of July, supposedly.
While we worked very hard and also had a limited amount of food, our spirits were relatively good because of the radio reception we had, and we saw that the end of the war is near. When the Russians were as close so that we could hear the cannons, our guards as well as we decided to move further west, and our guards put us into a heavily wired prison camp, and we thought we were caught in a bad position. We tested the wires and the barbed fences and found out they were not electrified, so we slept the night there and then went as a group further west. By that time we walked through forests and heavy snow, and it was physically very draining to, after the hard work at the camp, to keep on marching through the snow.
And anyway, I went onto a freight car and I collapsed. For 3 days I was on the freight car and I don't know anything what happened there. Anyway, it wound up to be to go to Vienna, around Czechoslovakia. When the Russians came again, so we all found a bicycle each, 4 bicycles, and a little cart about that size, for all our things on top there, including a typewriter. We needed a typewriter, obviously we needed a typewriter. And with the typewriter, we got some paper, because it was still Nazi time, you see. So we always typed a letter that we were on our way on an important mission, and we needed food stamps. So we went to all those village burgermeisters or mayors, and we got food stamps, and then we could eat. Right? And when we went as far as Kaufbeuren im Allgäu, and that's where we knew the Americans would come.
What inspired me to create this project, this gathering of materials and experiences to explore this issue of identity and conversion, comes from a personal story, my family history, and my own story. I hope to inspire my audience to think of these things for themselves in their own families, in their own interior lives. What does it mean to be who we are? How can we see each other in a more compassionate light and not look for binding definitions of each other, but rather opening up and seeing that we're many combinations of many things. That gives us a lot of freedom to explore ourselves and to have greater and deeper understanding for other people. Ultimately, I want to erase lines that divide us and inspire people to feel at peace within ourselves and with each other.
Shalom. My name is Cantor Lauren Phillips Fogelman, and I am from Temple Israel of Northern Westchester in Croton-on-Hudson. Today, I'll be singing Eli, Eli, my God, based on a poem by Chana Senesh, the Hungarian Jewish resistance fighter who wrote this poem in 1942. And the poem was set to music in 1945 by the Israeli composer David Zahavi, and it has become the most commonly performed song on Yom HaShoah in Israel. And I'll be joined by Dina Przhansky on piano.
Rishru This poem was written by Dr. Elizabeth Fischoff. She was born in the United States. Her parents left Austria and Germany very shortly before the war broke out in Europe. My Holocaust. Mine is a Holocaust survivor family, centered on our life raft, the new world, children, hope driven by loss. But this is not why my mother, my father fled to America. Here we should not sorrow, yet that ever-present hole gapes and yaws, vicious maw that threatens to devour us. So much pain, torment, endurance cracked, tossed aside, organic waste matter. Skin from the murdered, useful for lampshades. Grotesque German efficiency. This happened to millions and millions. People nothinged. Alive in the wrong place at the wrong time. Obscene yellow star on their sleeves. And stuck between my only grandmothers. Swallowed in a mass grave. Lost to us except in photographs. Silent stares. Vacant patches in my mother's eyes. My father's hands. My parents' sudden lowered voices. Bleached shadow elders framed in black on my mother's vanity stare clear-eyed, unfamiliar. Tell me, who are you? Where do I continue? Anguish as I plow our past. Unclosed wounds strike and warp my life. I wonder, how am I like Großmutter Clara? Her name, my middle name. Do I have her eyes, her breasts, the corner of her nose? Ready tears stun me. Victim in myself? Clara was gassed in Auschwitz, and Großmutter Edith killed herself rather than submit to torture. Never did my mother look at me and say, I remember when she laughed, her forehead wrinkled just like yours. I remain, stranger in this here and behind land, follow currents, wash over spellbound days. I roll in the feathered Hudson River clouds, my bright body shining with orgasms and chocolate. A loose sound, the shadows fall.
My name is Sandra Treadwell from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Norbert Čapek, a Czechoslovakian Unitarian minister, composed this poem in Dresden prison in 1941, shortly before he was transferred to Dachau concentration camp, where he died in 1942. Listen to these words he spoke to his fellow prisoners. It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals. Oh, blow ye evil winds into my body's fire. My soul you'll never unravel. Even though disappointed 1,000 times or fallen in the fight, and everything would worthless seem, I have lived amidst eternity. Be grateful, my soul. My life is worth living. He who was pressed from all sides but remained victorious in the spirit is welcomed into the choir of heroes. He who overcame the fetters, giving wings to his mind, is entering into the golden age of the victorious.
שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים. את נשמות 6 מיליון אחינו ואחיותינו שנהרגו על קידוש השם. בעל הרחמים יסירם כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרו בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר Amen. Fully compassionate God on high, to our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were Jews, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings, secure their souls in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. They will rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
My name is Alice, and I'm going to be reading the Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad yivrach yiruteh, v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei l'kol beit Yisrael, v'galah u'b'zman karib v'yimru Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lomei omaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ah v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yidadar v'yidaleh v'yidalal shemei l'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbekata v'nechamata d'amiram v'yalma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim elenu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav huya asei shalom elenu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen.
Hi, we are Rabbis Lori Levy and Steve Alterescu of the Reformed Temple of Putnam Valley. Thank you for taking the time to watch this Holocaust program. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of Auschwitz, whose wife, parents, and brother were murdered by the Nazis, wrote the following. We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
You, the listeners of this program, have chosen the way of courage and truth. For it takes courage to face the horrors of our past and to allow the truth of what is worst about humanity to inspire us to find the best in ourselves. We must face the past knowing we can neither undo it nor whitewash it, and in order to not allow the suffering of so many to overwhelm us, we must look at the present with the same honesty. When we say never again, it must mean we cannot remain silent in the face of evil, and we cannot be a bystander to history, but we instead use our voices in whatever way possible to stand up for the dignity and worth of every human being.
We wish to thank Rabbi Dana Bogatz, who inspired and organized this program. Thank you also to Pastor Carlos Figueroa for traveling around to record any speakers who needed assistance, and to all who volunteered their time to contribute and read material or help with the technical details of putting this program together.
We hope you found the program a meaningful way to commemorate the Holocaust while remaining safe and healthy until the time, hopefully very soon, when we will all gather in person.
Blessed